And welcome back to the show, everybody. You know, here in Laguna Woods Village, we love to play sports year-round. Doesn't matter what sport it is, we love it, we bring it, we play it. But that could potentially lead to a sports injury. Hopefully, Dr. Alan Beyer here with Hoag Orthopedic Institute can give us some special tips and pointers on how to prevent that, and if it happens, what we can do about it. Doctor, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Nice to have you here. Give us a little bit of your background.
So I am an orthopedic surgeon. I've been in practice here in Orange County for 43 years. Originally from back east, as you can probably hear. Did all my training back east. Came out here, did my sports medicine training with Dr. Curlin and Dr. Joe back in the early 80s. Thinking I was going back to New York and going to be a sports medicine doctor in New York, and I was out here about a week, and I realized I was never going back to New York. And the rest is history. Been in the same practice for 43 years and enjoying every minute of it.
Well, how could you not? This is a beautiful place to live. So what types of sports injuries are you seeing?
So as an orthopedic surgeon, we're trained to take care of the whole musculoskeletal system. And sports medicine specifically trained physicians really kind of hone in more on the injuries that occur during sports play. But we take care of everything from hand and finger injuries to ankle injuries to elbow, shoulder injuries. Knee is big. And the last 10 years of my practice, I've pretty much focused in on knee injuries because I've always been fascinated by the knee joint. So I've become kind of a knee guy. But early on, I mean, I did everything. I did Tommy John surgery of the elbow. I did ankle reconstructions. We did it all. And actually, as my patients got older, as I got older, I was doing more and more knee replacements from the people whose anterior cruciate ligaments I might have fixed 20 years before.
Is that right?
And then 20 years later, when the arthritis set in, they needed a knee replacement. I was doing those too. So I've covered the gamut, but the last 10 years or so has been mostly knees.
So are you seeing a lot of knee injuries with golf or pickleball?
Well, I was fond of saying that pickleball has been very good to me. Pickleball injuries are epidemic, and it's for a couple of different reasons.
Tell us.
I read an interesting study a couple of months ago that said that pickleball injuries in the United States last year had a $400 million cost to the healthcare system. The problem with that study was it talks about people who hurt themselves playing pickleball, and the cost of their treatment was $400 million. It doesn't address the people who maybe got off the couch and went out and played pickleball and got a little active and did some stuff and didn't have that heart attack or that stroke or that other thing that you get from just sitting around doing nothing. Right. And I'd be willing to wager that the savings to the healthcare system from those people who didn't sustain a cardiac event or a stroke outweighs the $400 million that was spent treating their pickleball injuries. And I'd rather spend that $400 million any day to prevent people from sitting home and doing nothing and their exercise is pushing the button on the remote.
But not only that, it sounds like pickleball is taking the rap because the population of the sport exploded over the last 4 years.
Absolutely correct,
right?
And continues to explode, yes.
So they're not otherwise doing other things, such as golf or tennis or skiing or any other type of sport can cause injuries.
But pickleball was unique in that it appealed to people who didn't want to go out and take golf lessons, which takes a commitment, or take tennis lessons, which takes a commitment.
Sure.
It's an easier sport to just pick up the racket, pick up a ball, put on a pair of sneakers and go out there and do it. There wasn't a big investment in money or time and training. It's very intuitive, and you can get decent at it very, very quickly because the court's smaller, it's easier to get to the ball, and it has the whole social aspect.
Right.
People are going out and playing doubles, and they have a glass of wine in between the games.
Well,
like
and
golf.
we wonder why there's injuries.
Exactly. Well, let's not go there. But it's the social aspect, especially in this community, that appeals to people so much. And I think that's important.
It's a very addicting sport. So what can people do to prevent or avoid any injuries?
So the things that I like to tell people when they've just started or kind of getting into it are several things. Number one, preparation. You shouldn't go out to do anything without preparation. And in the case of this, it's spend 5 minutes stretching a little bit. Stretch your Achilles tendons, stretch your shoulders a little bit, turn and twist your back a little bit, just to warm up the muscles, loosen up the muscles. I mean, I tell the same thing to golfers. Don't go from your car directly to the first tee. Spend 15 minutes warming up a little bit. It's going to get rid of a lot of those injuries. Number two, I think, is know who you are as an athlete. The thing about pickleball that's a little bit dangerous almost is that unlike tennis, where the court is rather large, most of us figure out pretty quickly, I can't get to that ball, I'm not even going to try.
Right.
On the pickleball court, almost everything feels like it's within reach. You don't have to move that far to get to just about any ball because the court is so small.
Sure.
And a 65-year-old guy, God love him, can't get to the ball the way a 20-year-old does, and boom, he pops his Achilles tendon because he tries too hard to get to that ball. So know your limits. You're not out there on the professional pickleball tour, making a living doing it. You're doing it for fun. Just let the ball go and keep your Achilles tendon intact.
So if they don't, at what point do they call an orthopedic surgeon?
So my rule of thumb usually, with an obvious deformity, or if there's, nerve or muscle injury where you can't move something, or it doesn't have a blood supply to it, you need to seek medical help right away. But for that ankle sprain, that wrist sprain, or something like that, you wait 24 to 48 hours, you do some ice, you take a couple of Advil or Aleve if you're not on any other medications that are contradict taking those pills. And if it's not better in 24 to 48 hours, or the ankle sprain still doesn't let you weight bear on it after 24 or 48 hours, that's when you should seek medical help.
Okay, good to note. So last time you were here, you were talking about opening a new surgery center.
And we've opened our 5th surgery center at Hoag Orthopedic Institute. It's right down the road here in Aliso Viejo. State of the art. We've got 10 robotic sets of instrumentation for doing joint arthroplasty. We're getting people, actually that's a picture of the new entrance for Hoag Hospital in Irvine and Hoag Orthopedic Institute, where we're adding 3 new buildings on the front. That campus is actually going to be larger than the Newport Beach campus when that construction is finished by the end of next year. The surgery center is in Aliso Viejo. We're doing our joint replacements as outpatients. More than half the patients are going home the same day after a total hip or total knee replacement.
That's incredible.
We've got spine surgeons doing outpatient surgery. It's really a state-of-the-art orthopedic facility.
So do you bounce around to each of the facilities, or do you have one that you go to?
First of all, I let my younger guys do a lot more of the bouncing than me. I'm getting a little too old to bounce. But and most of the guys work that way. They'll stay at 1 or 2 of the centers. We try not to have guys going to all 5 because you can't develop the amount of time that you need devoting to the patients if you're spending that much time on the freeway. So we tend to have our doctors broken out in groups where each physician will go to 1 or 2 of the centers, but not to all 5.
So when do you expect that newest one to be open?
Well, the surgery center is open in Aliso. It's been open for a year now. The construction down on Sand Canyon for Hoag, we're looking at completing probably towards the end of 26, and it's going to be an absolutely phenomenal facility. There'll be a new digestive center, a new women's center. Hoag Orthopedic Institute is going to be expanded. It's going to be a true state-of-the-art facility, which, only Hoag seems to be able to really pull together. It's a great place to work. They build us a lovely sandbox to work in.
Yes, that's beautiful. So in your expertise, are you using a lot of AI now for some of your surgeries?
AI is just about breaking into the surgical arena. I think the robotics combined with AI are giving us the ability on the really difficult cases to come up with a better solution and ensuring more perfect placement of our knee and hip replacements, because the key to longevity on a joint replacement is getting the alignment absolutely perfect. And certainly robotics and AI can help you do that. It's not needed in most of the cases. I see a bigger role for AI in terms of the instant knowledge. For instance, if I prescribe a patient a medication, it can instantly tell me, don't do this, it interacts with this other medication that this patient is on. And that's where the real goal of AI is. That and searching the literature to help you with a difficult diagnostic case where maybe it can really refer you to somebody who had the same problem 20 years ago and wrote about it, we can certainly learn from the past. And AI has the capability to just make all of that wealth of orthopedic knowledge available to us instantly, instead of spending hours in the library researching a project.
Right, yeah. So you mentioned earlier that you have cases or patients where you've had to go in 20 years later because of scar tissue buildup and had to remove that. Are surgeries coming along so that the scar tissue can be addressed before the onset, or is that?
That's a great question, and scar tissue is invariable when you violate the body in any way. So the best way to minimize the formation of that scar tissue is with a minimally invasive technique. And most of our surgical procedures, especially the advent of arthroscopic procedures, has indeed minimized that surgical insult. When I came into practice and we did an anterior cruciate ligament reconstruction, the incision on that patient was 12 to 18 inches long. And they were in a cast for 6 weeks, and the rehab was just an absolute monster. Wow. With the advent of arthroscopic surgery, we could do it with, at most, a 2 or 3 inch incision and a few portals, no cast, move them right away, and that certainly decreased the incidence of scar tissue. Unfortunately, it doesn't always decrease the incidence of arthritis. Whenever you insult a joint with a trauma, be it a car accident trauma or the trauma of surgery, arthritis invariably occurs after that insult. It happens faster in some people than others. That's probably partly genetic. We'll figure that out in another decade or so. But arthritis, once it sets in, is relentless, and that's what ultimately requires many of those patients to need a knee replacement or a hip replacement later on in life. But by being able to do that, you get them back to a quality of life that we weren't able to do before. Sure. The days of a 60-year-old saying, I can't do anything because my knees are beat up from college football are over. We can give him a new knee and he can still get out there and play pickleball.
I love it. Well, on that note, Dr. Alan Beyer, thank you so much for being here with us. What an enjoyable conversation.
Thank you. Been a pleasure. Hope to see you again soon.
Yes. You're watching This Day on Village TV. We'll be back after these messages.